All right, hey, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, we are back taking a look at the tropics. Tonight is Saturday, August 14th, 2021. This is your evening tropical update, where tonight we continue to watch what is left of Tropical Depression Fred, now located just offshore of Cuba in the southern Gulf of Mexico, as well as Tropical Storm Grace, who has quickly progressed along and is now in the northern Antilles this evening and will move into the islands that make up the edge of the Caribbean Sea in the coming days. So we're going to go ahead and hit both these storms tonight. Probably keep it pretty brief this evening, and we'll probably have more tomorrow. As tonight's another kind of wait and see sort of evening. National Hurricane Center's map again showing our two systems. I wanted to note real quick that Fred isn't actually a tropical system tonight. It's not a tropical depression. It's not a tropical storm. What the Hurricane Center decided to do is they said, look, Fred's been off. He's been dead for like 30 hours now. It's been almost 2 days. We haven't had a close circulation center. We can't keep calling this a tropical depression when it's not, because Fred isn't tonight. So instead, we're going to just go ahead. We're going to drop the advisories for this, but we're going to keep it. We're going to keep writing updates for Fred. We're just not going to call it a tropical system tonight. So that's basically what we're doing. So they're calling it the remnants of Fred, because the Hurricane Center does still anticipate that Fred will be able to reorganize by tomorrow morning. They expect it to be a tropical depression tomorrow morning, a tropical storm by tomorrow afternoon, and then still landfalling as a moderate strength tropical storm. Now the forecast cone shifted even further east, to the west, and now the landfall location is now somewhere along the Mississippi-Alabama border. However, I would highly encourage you to not really worry so much about that actual center, as a lot of heavy rain is coming not only for Florida and points to the east, but even eventually up into parts of the Carolinas and the southern Appalachians, as what is Fred is a big sloppy mess. We have to remember that big disorganized tropical system such as Fred. I mean, look at the envelope and moisture associated with Fred. This is all in some relation due to Fred's existence. So don't think that, oh well, I live here and the center of circulation's here, so I'm not going to get a whole lot. Like, this whole region is going to expect heavy rain, as tropical moisture is not only surging in from the high pressure located off the Atlantic Sea, and Fred's low pressure also located here, that is just streaming tropical moisture up not only into Florida, but this will eventually carry northward, and this will spread that tropical moisture into this area. This will enhance afternoon thunderstorms, bands of heavy rain, potential flooding concerns. A lot of rivers are already high. It's been a generally wet summer across this region, so these weaker tropical systems can sometimes really surprise people, and I don't want people to be too off guard by what could be to come of Fred. So look at the satellite presentation here this afternoon. Fred may be on its way. The circulation is basically a trough axis that's kind of like this. The axis is probably something like this, and there is just a little bit of west wind maybe starting to form. We can see in the low clouds there's some inflow in this direction. There's definitely northeast winds on this side, and there could just be a little bit of a western wind starting on the bottom here, just off the coast of southern Cuba. If I'd actually placed a circulation center maybe forming just on the tip of Cuba with the associated thunderstorm activity, definitely a lot better today. Fred's over warm water. This is definitely not going to be an issue for Fred in the vicinity of. This is all 86 to 88 degree water as Fred moves up, and the wind shear should generally lighten over the storm. So this is that upper low this afternoon that's been kind of keeping Fred down. That's wind shear, but that wind shear that's been bottling Fred since it left Hispaniola in this region is going to abate tonight, as we see the GFS forecast this trough to open up in the coming days, and is not really anything organized, as a higher height system kind of builds in over this region. This won't. Fred should be here by about this time, so I don't want to, say that the wind shear will be gone. There'll be still some southwest wind shear component, as Fred's here about Sunday afternoon on this model, but the wind shear is definitely lightened. The water is warm, and Fred's already showing a little bit of a sign of reorganization. So far, although I was skeptical, the Hurricane Center seems like they've made a pretty decent call in keeping Fred's advisories rolling, and it still looks like Fred may have a shot to reform as it moves northward. Now, right now, there are no tropical storm watches or warnings in effect with Fred, but you can see the landfall now expected sometime late on Monday or early Tuesday morning, which would necessitate tropical storm watches and warnings going out tonight or tomorrow morning. Essentially, is when you'd probably go ahead and see those tropical storm watches and warnings go up, really 2 a.m. tonight into Sunday morning. But tropical storm watches and warnings still very possible for much of the eastern Gulf Coast. And again, not going to be a widespread major event. You're not going to have a lot of storm surge, not going to have a lot of wind damage. Fred's probably only going to be able to get back to like 45, 50 miles an hour is about what the Hurricane Center forecast at landfall. And that's not going to be a well organized system. It's going to be a big scattered mess, but that big scattered mess can still bring a lot of rainfall. So definitely want to keep an eye on that and that threat to come. Weather Prediction Center's rainfall forecast through the start of next week across the entire southeastern U.S. This is until Thursday morning, and you can see a lot of rainfall still to come. I mean, those dark grays and whites are 6 to 10 inches of rainfall. So, and again, you see here the Hurricane Center's forecast pretty much rides the Alabama-Mississippi border, but all that rainfall off to the right side, and especially in this corridor here where that tropical moisture really streams up. 6 to 10 inches near the coast, generally 3 to 6 inches across lots of Georgia and Alabama, but even parts of the Tennessee, southern Appalachians could be start getting on some really heavy rainfall totals as that tropical moisture runs up into the mountains. So don't count Fred out, and definitely respect the rainfall threat that is to come, and expect that even though this storm is pretty ragged right now, it looks like it might start to be turning the corner a little bit, and we can still get a tropical storm up here early next week. Let's go ahead and kick over to Tropical Storm Grace, located near the Northern Antilles this evening, landfalling near some of the Virgin Islands in northern leewards tonight. Grace is not a very well organized tropical storm. So last time we talked, we said that we expected Grace to slow down and intensify in this area. Well, Grace has not slowed down. The system had a little bit of a southwestward lurch. The center was a little bit more up here, and it kind of snuck up under these stronger thunderstorms. She's really trying to fire thunderstorms. You can see a few here, especially as we switch the infrared band as the sun sets on the satellite loop. Most of the heavy convection right here over the islands, and the center pretty much followed those storms. And what it did is it kind of adjusted the track of Grace a little bit. The system also hasn't slowed down, which isn't helping matters. The hurricane hunters flew the storm earlier. This is an evening or earlier past. The center is more over here now. But they were not able to find a lot of evidence of a really good circulation center. There's a belt of really strong winds on the north side, as to be expected. The system is generally moving in this direction, so winds on the side that favors the movement get enhanced. So you see higher winds on the north side of a storm moving west, because that's where it's almost like a tailwind effect. This is your tailwind, and then you have the winds rotating this way anyway, so they get enhanced. But then the backside very weak as you're fighting that 20 to 25 mile an hour forward speed. I think 23 miles an hour at the last check. So Grace is really struggling with that. Until she slows down, that's not going to change. But this overall southern shift of the track has changed the outcome. So you can see now the Hurricane Center's new forecast cone now almost misses Puerto Rico, but now borders the tip of northern Dominican Republic and Haiti, or Hispaniola as we call this island. This is the same island that Fred tracked directly over. And from this point to now, Fred has not been able to recover at any point on this track. So the Dominican Republic and Haiti is still a big factor in the Grace's future, but this whole southern shift means that now it's very unlikely she is going to track north of these islands into the Bahamas and seriously threaten the east coast of Florida or the eastern points northward, Georgia and the Carolinas. They're going to be off the hook, it looks like. So the new question becomes, how much does she interact with what is going to be Hispaniola, because now Puerto Rico appears she's not going to track directly over Puerto Rico either. And this is the interesting rub here, because Fred went directly over the island. He didn't pass go. He didn't collect $200. He had no chance. There is chances, especially in the southern part of this track, where she could slip south. The mountains are up here, the northern part of the islands. If she can track anywhere south or west of those islands, or those mountains rather, she's going to have a better time, and you are not going to see the storm get outright destroyed like Fred was. She's also expected to slow down a little bit. You can see here that the points the points between start slowing down a little bit. So the forward speed's going to slow. She's going to be over warm water, and the upper level winds aloft don't look too bad in this region. This will be, you're talking about generally Sunday through Monday. And if we go to say Monday on this model, Monday afternoon, There's an upper high again over this region and mostly anticyclonic outflow aloft. So there's not going to be a lot of upper level wind shear harming her. Most of the wind shear will be in this tropical upper tropospheric trough to the north of the islands, which she's not going to be bothered by because Grace will be somewhere in this region on Monday. So it looks like she's going to generally have favorable conditions outside of the land interaction. So the question really becomes, what does the land interaction look like with Grace? How strong is the storm? She'll also have to potentially deal with Cuba, but again, there's a lot of scenarios where we can kind of pinball, and I can draw a line that misses a whole lot of these islands, or maybe she comes up and then kind of rides like this. And, again, there's worlds where this system doesn't really get too banged up by these islands. And if she doesn't, conditions look at least somewhat supportive of an intensifying storm. I wouldn't be saying that she's going to be a category 3 or 4 hurricane or something in this range, but if she's able to get out into the Gulf of Mexico towards the end of the week, this puts a lot of the Gulf of Mexico on a serious notice for a storm, because by then it looks like conditions would be more favorable. If we go ahead and take the same model and run it out to Thursday into Friday, there is going to be a large anticyclone over the Gulf of Mexico. Wind shear probably going to be low, and I don't think there's going to be a whole lot of dry air either. We can see here Grace moving through Sunday into, or Tuesday into Wednesday. Thursday, she's somewhere over here. Now the GFS doesn't. The GFS sees a lot of dry air in here for now, actually, so that might be a little bit of a saving grace, but we'll see how this plays out, because this high looks like it's kind of rotating some more moist air around. Maybe that kind of gets in there. The GFS keeps her really weak and really low, but if the storm is intensifying somewhere in this region, she may want to pull further northward, influenced by the steering currents aloft. So the slower, or the weaker she is, the more she wants to push off. The stronger she is, the more she wants to hook northward. So it looks like the conditions in this region may be at least somewhat supportive of a tropical storm. Again, the GFS not too excited about it, and the GFS also has a pretty strong blocking high, like a more elongated high pressure over the southern United States. But if that breaks down even a little bit, say it looks like maybe a little trough coming in or something that can break that down, she may find a weakness at some point to turn northward. So anyway, my point being, a system getting into the Gulf of Mexico with this kind of upper level pattern, going still in a favorable phase of our MJO, and the feedback that comes with that, and the enhancement of the atmosphere that comes with that, I would be very concerned about a system of more organization moving into this region later this week. So folks on the Gulf Coast need to keep watching Grace and the medium to long term outlooks as we get through this week, with impacts possible going into next weekend. It's a little too early for too many calls, but right now the trends are pushing her more towards the Caribbean and the Gulf of Mexico. And like we said, the conditions look better down here than they do up here. So with that track shift comes a new concern for Grace, not so much for the East Coast, but for folks in Florida, especially Western Florida and the Panhandle. You need to keep watching this one closely. So that's what I got for you guys this evening for your tropical update. We'll keep watching the rest of these storms. There's not a whole lot else going on. Linda is a major hurricane in the eastern Pacific, and she'll be moving off. And I did want to show you, I guess, real quick, the Joint Typhoon Warning Center. They do have more on Tropical Storm 16 now, actually intensifying it up into a typhoon in a couple days in the vicinity of Japan's southern islands and the Philippines. So we'll have to keep watching this one as it passes by Guam in the coming days. But there's several more days to watch this storm, but it is not dead just yet. So that's what I got for you guys this evening. As always, thanks for watching, and have a good one.